John back, everybody. Thank you so much for your patience. Technical difficulties will be the death of me. All right, John, can you please start over and let us know how this runoff election works? Why is it in a runoff? Why is it not regular, just straight up electing the senators like we would have seen in other states in November?
Yeah, so basically, Christine, how Georgia election laws work is they're majority laws. So basically, a candidate has to get 50% plus one vote. Now, that race between Senator Kelly Loeffler and the person who came out right in front of her, Reverend Raphael Warnock, he's the Democratic challenger. Nobody in that race gained 50% at all. There was a number of people in that race. It was basically almost like a primary. Anybody could run, and whoever the top two people were would come out into a runoff. So we kind of expected that one was going to go to a runoff. With the race between Senator David Perdue and his Democratic challenger John Ossoff, however, Senator Perdue was this close from reaching the 50% threshold needed to be declared the winner. However, he didn't reach it. So because of that, both of our Senate races are headed to a runoff. Obviously, today is the big day. We're going to see what voters here in the Peach State are deciding in those races. But so that's how Georgia election laws work. And it's not uncommon to see a runoffs. You know, we see runoffs in races all the time. It is just kind of a child of 2020 to see two Georgia Senate races go to a runoff in the year when Georgia flips blue for the first time in almost 20 years.
Absolutely. So are both of these races, are they for the normal 6-year term, or will you guys have to do it again in a very short amount of time?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Senator David Perdue's seat, that is the normal Senate term. So whoever wins that race will have the full 6-year term, and so that's just the normal race. Senator Kelly Loeffler's seat, however, that is going to be something that's going to be on the ballot again in 2022.
Oh my gosh.
Yes, of course. The madness does not end. So basically, her race, she was appointed to that seat in 2020 after our former Senator Johnny Isakson resigned from office because of health concerns. So she was appointed to that seat to fill out the rest of his term for that year. And then now whoever wins that will have to hold on to the seat for another about a year, 2 years, until the midterms in 2022.
Now, you're in Savannah right now. A lot of the focus has been on Atlanta, but Savannah is also, the county there is also a blue stronghold, or it was this past year in the presidential election. Have the candidates been traveling all around, or have they been focused on the Atlanta metro area?
Christine, I can assure you Savannah has been a stop, not just because it's a beautiful city with Spanish moss hanging down all around the oak trees, but because Savannah really is growing and extremely influential here in Georgia. We have one of the largest ports on the East Coast, and it's an area that's constantly growing. You know, we have huge universities here. We have a lot of people who are coming down here to move down here. You see a lot of people from up north moving down here. And you're right, Chatham County, where Savannah is located, is a huge Democratic stronghold. But we've seen, I just spoke with Senator Loeffler yesterday. She flew down to Savannah. We had Kamala Harris, Vice President-elect Kamala Harris, in Savannah, in the Savannah area on Sunday. Dr. Jill Biden has been in Savannah. We've seen Donald Trump Jr. come to Savannah. There's been a lot of attention being put onto the coastal empire, what we like to call us here in Georgia and Southeast Georgia. In this whole election cycle, I should say, there's a lot of potential here in voters. Really, the main goals of Democrats right now is to try to bring out more voters. I mean, I think Republicans know they're not going to flip Chatham County blue. However, what they can do is try to bring out more voters. You know, we saw the margin for the presidency here in Georgia was a very, very slim. Yes, it was razor thin. I never thought Georgia was going to flip blue, to be completely honest with you. But because just the more people came out and vote, we had such high turnout. That's what led to these two races going to a runoff and Joe Biden walking away with the state.
It's such an interesting dynamic. The United States is obviously, we're seeing more and more people moving south, like you said, to the coastal low country there in the Savannah area. It's just super interesting because, you know, here in Ohio, where we are very traditionally a swing state and normally decide elections, that was not the case. President Donald Trump won our state by more than 8 points, more than he won it the last go around. And you guys in Georgia are a swing state there in the deep south, which is super, super interesting. And I think that is, why there are so many eyes. I mean, besides it deciding how the Senate is going to go, that's why it's just so interesting and people are really, really watching right now.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things that we're seeing here, not only is the Atlanta area growing, but all areas in Georgia are growing. You're seeing the Savannah metropolitan area grow, Columbus, Georgia, Albany, Augusta, Macon, all of these areas across the state are growing massively. And as one voting rights activist I spoke to over the last few months put it to me, she said to me that Georgia is going to be the first majority minority state in the Deep South by 2024. Now, what that means is that a majority of the population here in Georgia is going to be minority voters, predominantly African American voters. And we're seeing a reversal of the Great Migration, taking you back to your history classes back in the 50s and 60s, when the majority of African American people moved out of the South to escape Jim Crow laws, to escape segregation. A lot of them are moving back now. Warmer weather, it's a lower cost of living.
Such a
People are
prosperous area, also for the Black community as well.
Exactly, exactly. It's just rich culture here. So a
Mhm.
lot of people are moving back to the South to, start a new life. And because of that, it's changing demographics. It's changing voting patterns, as we're seeing. Again, they said Georgia was at play this year in 2020. I was honestly not believing anybody. I was like, maybe 2022,
Yeah.
definitely 2024. But as you can see, demographic shifts are really occurring. And a lot of that is because of voting rights group on the ground, door knocking. I had somebody knock on my door today
Oh,
saying, "Hey,
wow.
what's your plan to vote?" We've had it multiple times over the last few months, the last couple weeks, as well as we got closer to the runoff. So there's just a lot of attention, a lot of enthusiasm too here in the Peach State.
Absolutely. We've seen the lines for early voting as well. As a reporter, we generally early vote because we're very, very busy today. As you can see, you're on interviews all day long. One last question for you. What's the polling looking at like in Georgia? Are there any people who are ahead in this race, or is it kind of neck and neck, just like it was for the presidential election?
Yeah. To be completely honest with you, there's not much polling out there.
Really?
We don't know a lot about what's going on. I mean, what I can tell you is about voter turnout. We have had massive early voting turnout in this runoff election. Honestly, we're probably going to break records for voter turnout in a runoff election. Over 3 million people voted early, either in person or via mail absentee. I was one of those people.
Mhm.
You get a text on your phone when you get your absentee ballot sent to you. You get a text on your phone when it's been accepted. So a lot of people have opted for that, especially because of pandemic. But something else we're seeing is just that obviously this year we saw it in the general election. A lot of those early votes are from African American voters, minority voters, and younger voters who tend to vote Democratic.
Mhm.
So technically, not technically, but we're anticipating to see that those early votes are going to swing a little bit more blue, or more Democratic. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of Republican voters coming out today. Just some voters I spoke to yesterday, last week at different events for Senator Loeffler told me they're not voting early. They're coming out on election day to come and make their voices heard. So I think there's going to just really we're going to just really have to see in the next few days. I think a lot is still up in the air, but if there's high voter turnout like we saw in the general election, that may tell us how things are going to go one way or another.
Very interesting, John. All eyes again, like I said, on Georgia. Do you think we're going? What time do polls close there in Georgia?
Yes. Polls close here at 7 p.m. Eastern time. So if you're in line at 7 p.m., they will let you go ahead and vote. But again, with this year, because of the pandemic and a lot of people voting early absentee, that's going to delay when we find out about the results. So we're honestly going to just have to be waiting the next few days or so. Secretary of State's office said maybe tomorrow, maybe Thursday, but they have until next Friday to certify all the votes.
So, are you guys a state where you can't open the envelopes? Okay, got it. So here in Ohio, it was such an interesting thing. So here we are allowed to open our envelopes early, and like you said, Democratic voters, the trend is to vote early or to vote by mail, and so all of those had been counted. So when the first numbers dump came out, it was very heavily in the lead for Joe Biden. But of course, as the day of voters got counted, President Trump really pulled away in Ohio and states states that do the opposite is what, again, the opposite of what we are seeing. So again, all eyes on Georgia for the next few days. John, thank you so much. I know you got a busy day, so I will let you go. Thank you again. Stay with us right now, everybody. I'm going to show you a little bit of those early voter lines that John was just talking about here. Let me see if I can find that video for you. Here it is. Here are those early voter lines that John was talking about.
Mhm.
Are joining us right now. You guys know these faces. This is Desiree Timms and Mike Gonadakis joining us right now to talk about the importance of this race. Good afternoon, guys. How are you doing?
Great.
Fantastic.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being with us. We always really appreciate your voices. Desiree, you're on the left, so we'll start with you. What is the importance of this race today? And then, Mike, we'll have you follow up.
This race is a power shifting election night. Everything that we voted for in 2020 for the Biden Harris agenda is on the line. If we are going to have a Congress that is not obstructionist, that is going to work together, if we're going to get back to bipartisanship, we have to make sure we flip the Senate to make our democracy more fair and accessible and something that will actually work.
Mike, what do you think? How big is this today?
Well, if we want bipartisanship, we want the Republicans to control the United States Senate because the Democrats have the House. That's true bipartisanship. One party owns one party owns the other. But at the end of the day, those of us, all three of us, we don't live in Georgia, and people vote for people. So us outsiders, and I agree with Desiree on the importance of our next president's agenda, who controls the Senate. But at the end of the day, people vote for people. So do the Georgians continue to support Perdue and Loeffler, or are they going to go for Warnock and Perdue's opponent? Purdue's already won this race once in November. He just didn't hit that 50% threshold that the Constitution requires. So I'm very confident he's going to be able to hold the line here tonight.
Desiree, what do you think? Do you think he'll be able to hold on?
I'm optimistic about the Democrats' performance. We know that there have been more than 122,000 new voters who didn't vote in November who signed up today or for this election day today. And we know that 20% of those voters are under 25. We know that 40% of those voters are African American. And so we are seeing people exercising their constitutional right to vote. And I hope that the true voices of Georgians are heard tonight and that they're able to cast their vote unapologetically, and so that we can usher in a new day for American democracy.
What do you guys make of this shift? I mean, even from a completely non-political stance, like, how incredible is America that just, of 4 years of people moving in and out of a state, as well as people registering to vote, can really turn a state that people thought was very, very blue there in the deep, very, very red down there in the deep South, to a blue state in just 4 years. As far as the presidential election, Mike, I'm sorry. But, obviously still up for grabs as the Senate. Do you think this will be a testament to where Georgia will be headed in the future?
Great question. Every election has different turnouts. Some people are more motivated in one election versus the other, local, state, federal. So it's hard to say it's always going to be X, Y, or Z. But at the end of the day, what we have to ask ourselves is, why has there been a shift in the state of Georgia, which is, you're right, it's been always red always red.
Yes.
And it's because people are leaving New York and the liberal policies and the tax policies from Cuomo and moving to business-friendly states and less tax states like Georgia. And I would just remind all the new people that live in Georgia today that if you vote for the things you left for in the first place, you're going to end up leaving Georgia someday soon too.
Desiree, what do you make of that?
I completely disagree with that assessment by Michael. Look, the reality is we have people like Stacey Abrams who said we are not talking to all of the voters. And there are so many Americans who have felt left out of the political process. They don't engage in political discourse. People like Michael and I and Christine, we're paying attention to the news, but there are new voters who just haven't paid attention, who haven't been engaged. And now they feel like, hey, you know what? Warnock is talking directly to me. Ossoff is talking directly to me. We know that by electing Warnock and Ossoff into the Senate, that ensures that not only the power of the Senate, but $2,000 stimulus checks for everyone who continue to struggle across the country. So it's not new people moving into new locations. It's that we're talking to new people. And I hope we start doing that right here in Ohio as well.
Another question for you guys. Mike, we'll start with you. If the White House, as well as the House and the Senate, all become Democratic this year, how do you think, for good or for bad, the life of everyday Americans will change?
Well, you have Joe Manchin, the United States Senator, a Democrat, that said he won't vote for some of the extreme things like ending the filibuster, packing the court, the Green New Deal from AOC. So, the party in power gets to control. Look, winners win and losers have to sit on the sidelines. So if that's the case, will there be changes? Absolutely. But it's just a 2-year window. And history has taught us one thing important, that if a party controls both the House, Senate, and the White House, they usually hold on for about 2 years. And then at those midterm elections, in this case, it would be 2022, either the House or Senate will flip to Republicans. So, or in this case, if it's Republicans, if Democrats win, or vice versa.
Right.
So it's a 2-year window for the Democrats. If they want to hold on to it for a full term of Joe Biden, they can't go too extreme. They can go center left, and that's fine. Republicans can go center right. But if you go left, they're going to pay for it in 2 short years at the ballot box.
Checks and balances of America are amazing. Desiree, what do you think? For good, if that does happen, if the Democratic Party holds on to, gains the Senate and then has all three, what do you think, good or bad, the lives of everyday Americans will change?
I think it's going to change for the good. If we win both of these seats, there's a 50-50 split. There is no super majority or no super minority. And so everyone will have to work together. Once we get a full 50-50 Senate and we have Vice President-elect Kamala Harris to break the tie, we're able to usher in real policies that people actually voted for this cycle. Criminal justice reform so that we can end the senseless murderings of Black and brown men like Casey and Andre. We have to make sure that we're keeping people safe. This is what people showed up for. And so if we continue to have this gridlock, again, you continue to turn off voters, they disengage from the process, and they're not going to show up. And so I'm excited to give the Biden-Harris agenda a fighting chance. That's what we deserve. We're tired of the gridlock. Both sides, both parties, we're sick of it. We're ready for people to work together. That's what people voted for, and that's what I'm looking forward to seeing after tonight's win.
All right. Any last words for both of you? I really appreciate your time, and I love this discussion that we're having.
I would just say, unfortunately, we're not going to know tonight who the winner of these two races are. $1 billion, that's right, almost $1 billion have been spent for these 2 Senate seats, unprecedented, historical. But we're not going to know at the end of the night tonight.
Definitely not.
It's gonna be a long night. I totally agree. We have to get the money out of politics. Overturn some of those cases like in Citizens United. It's just ridiculous. We're keeping out average Americans from participating in the process. It's going to be a long night. It's going to be a historic night or week. And I look forward to the end results. And so we can get on with 2021.
Well, you know what? My hope for the next election cycle is maybe more states as far as their counting. Maybe they'll be more like Ohio, and our Secretary of State, Frank LaRose, and they'll be able to open those envelopes and count them early so we don't have this long drawn out process that we saw. And I think just divided Americans. So we will see how this turns out. We will know in a week. We will not know tonight. And I do appreciate both of your time, and I appreciate this open, candid discussion that we had. All right, everybody. More information on NBC4i.com for this race. We will continue to follow it for you and bring you the election results later in this week, and we'll follow it throughout the night as well. See ya.
Thank you.